Lesson number 5. Prayer Scientifically Explained. The Power of Prayer. Today I wish to supplement everything I have told you about meditation or communion with God, and talk to you about prayer, which is the basis of meditation, and out of which meditation grew. Prayer is the mightiest of man's powers, for through prayer, if understood and rightly used, man may have anything he desires, attain the loftiest heights, or extend his powers to others for their exaltation. Rightly and knowingly used, prayer can transform one's own condition, or that of the whole world. If prayer is not rightly and knowingly used, the time consumed is wasted, for it will be of no avail. Prayer is based upon desire. Desire ye what ye will, and behold, it standeth before thee. Throughout the eons it has been thine without thy knowing, and though thou hast but just asked for it. Sit thou not and ask, acting not, for unless thou reach out for thy desire, it shall not walk thy way to thee, unaided by thy strong arm. This means that God will fulfill your every desire if you work with God to fulfill it. The whole power of the universe will work with you for its fulfilling, but it will not work for you while you do nothing about it. In this promise is the key to why prayer are or are not answered. God tells you very plainly that he will give you whatever you desire, but you must re-give equally by the action of service. Think that over. Recall the many prayers you have uttered and how disappointed you were because they were not answered. Most prayers are just selfish ones, continually asking for something to be given without even the expectation of giving something in exchange. Think of the thousands of entreaties which are sent up to God with the hope that what is asked for will just fall in their laps. You ask God for money. God says, yes, I will give you money, all you want for it. But what are you giving for it? What is the price you are paying for it? Again, we quote God's word in his message. He who desireth riches of earth alone, denying me in him, shall dwell in outer darkness of his own making, until he shall desire me strongly. And to him will I give all he asks without stinting, yea, and even more. But he, having more than all he sought, will have naught but worthless dross of his earth desire. Things of earth which man desires are but things of earth to be returned to earth with bones of him. But things of earth, heaven blessed by me, are as eternal in the immortality of a self-recording soul as light of me is eternal. You ask God for peace, happiness, and prosperity to be given to you. But you take peace, happiness, and prosperity away from another by malicious gossiping about your neighbor, treating your servant unjustly, thus taking her happiness away from her, or by misrepresenting the product you are selling. Until you balance your desire for peace by giving peace, or happiness by giving happiness, or prosperity by giving prosperity, your prayer will be voided by you yourself. The only way you can have happiness given to you by the light of love, which God is for you to give love to others. You cannot take happiness or love, you can only give it. If you give love, it will as surely be given to you as light alone into a mirror which reflects light back from the mirror. Witness the nations which have tried to become powerful, prosperous, peaceful, and happy by plundering other nations. Empires thus taken by force without having been voluntarily given, or without having given equally in exchange, are heavily in debt and on rations, and for every man killed to take wealth and happiness away from others for themselves, instead of giving it, 10 have paid the price in blood and 1,000 in tears. Witness also the great fortunes which have been built upon that principle. No man has ever yet been able to purchase happiness, prosperity, peace, or love with any other coin than happiness, peace, and love. The price of love is love. The price of greed is agony. You ask God to heal your body from its ills which you yourself created by overeating, by giving want to violent anger, or by diverse actions which destroy normalcy of balance given you by God. It seems never to occur to you that you must re-give that which you ask for by eating properly, by substituting love for anger, or cessation of the abuses which have caused your disorder. Do not misunderstand me when I refer to only such unbalanced conditions as anger and overeating as being the cause of all disorders, for worry and excessive grief, yes, even loneliness and introspection will cause grave disorders. That which I wish to impress upon you is the one fact that any disturbance of balance to the body is immediately recorded in the body by some malady, or maladjustment, which we think of as sickness. Also I say that any sickness or any kind of self-made, whether knowingly or unknowingly, whether intentionally or unintentionally, God's laws are never set aside by prayer or otherwise. The cause of your illness is in your breach of the law. You are suffering from its effects and ask God to eliminate the effect while you continue to reap the cause. Man blames God for man-made wars. Consider the many prayers for cessation of war. O Lord, we beseech you to stop this cruel war. We say, forgetful of the fact that we make our war ourselves by the free will to act as we choose. We fail to realize that the way to stop wars is to stop causing them. War is just as much an effect of a cause which man created by his selfishness as a business failure is the effect of a cause created by man because of his unwillingness to balance his gifts by regiving. We not only pray to God to let us break his laws without suffering from its effect, but we blame God for our own actions in breaking his law. How often we hear people say, "How can a loving God in heaven permit such cruel wars? It is hard to believe there is a God, else he would not permit such wars." We might just as well say that there can be no God, else he would not permit us to lie to our neighbor. God gives us free will to do as we choose in the making of ourselves in our own image, and he gives us all the power of his universe to help us break his law if we wish to. But whatever gifts we accept, we must equally give to balance our gifts. Let us again quote God's message in this respect. Verily has man free will to control his actions, that my father and mother has given to man as his inheritance. But the control of the reactions to those actions man has never had. This my father and mother holds inviolate. These cannot become man's except through modifying his actions until the reactions are their exact equal and opposite in equilibrium. Grave misconceptions regarding prayer. It is generally believed among men that one who prays often and with many words loudly and piously uttered is holy among men and much favored by God. But I say that he who finds an ecstasy of happiness in his soul from the giving of his love to touch the soul of a despairing neighbor is 100-fold more holy in God's sight. To him the kingdom of heaven is as though he dwelleth in the house of the Lord, while the other one of pity and words sitteth afar outside its garden walls. When ye pray to God, saying, O God, pity us, for we are as dust beneath thy feet, God's silent voice whispers within you, Know thou the light which I am. Thou art man, exalted in me. What I am, thou art. Thou art the light. For long ages God's silent voice whispers within your unhearing ears. God, therefore, gives you your desire to be what you wish to be in the building of yourself. So long as you believe yourself to be dust beneath the feet of the Almighty God, you are that dust which you have built in the image of your imagining. When you pray to God, saying, God have mercy upon me, a miserable sinner, you have not prayed to the one God of love, creator of his universe of love, creator of you to manifest his love, for you do not know him. You have but prayed to a God of wrath and fear of your own making, whom you have built in your own image. He who builds God in his own image builds idols for his worshipping. He whose idol is fear and wrath cannot know the God of love. Until you know love, you are what your idol is, a miserable sinner to whom mercy must be shown by your idol whom you yourself are. And you will be punished for your imagined self-made sins by you yourself, for the idol you worship will show you no mercy until you are freed from him by knowing love. When you pray to God resignedly, as though patiently accepting the punishment of grief at the death of a loved one, and you say, Thy will be done, O Lord. The Lord giveth, and he taketh away. You have not yet known the God of love, for God giveth only. God never takes that which has not been given. What God gives to you, you re-give to him for his re-giving. You rejoice when God gives birth to life, yet you deeply grieve when you give rebirth to a new life, for that is what death is. It will be many decades before man as a mass comprehends this idea, which is commonplace thinking to cosmic man, but you, in whom the seed of cosmic thinking is being sown, will go to your neighbor and sow it in his consciousness, and he in turn will do likewise, until man in the mass will be transformed from barbaric man, who still crucifies love, to cosmic man, who is love. Tomorrow we will give thought to the deeper meaning of prayer. End of lesson. Lesson 6. Prayer Scientifically Explained. Relationship of prayer to meditation. Let us unite in prayer. How familiar these words are on every religious occasion, and upon hearing them the congregation automatically bows its head, bends its knee, and words come from the pulpit in earnest tones which may be superficially heard by some, hardly heard at all by others, while the very few who hear in their hearts are deeply stirred by the ardor of the supplication to God for forgiveness, mercy, or blessings upon the congregation and various other human interests. Prayer is just meaningless words if not felt in the heart, just as music is no more than sound if it does not reach the soul. Prayer to God is the appeal of the soul of man to the universal soul. As such, it is the mightiest of man's power. But when prayer is but words not coming from the soul, it is no more effectual than the hundreds of prayers written and distributed throughout the streets in Asia, or prayers written into a disk and whirled to repeat themselves by turning the prayer wheel swiftly. Worded and formal prayers issued periodically like morning and evening prayers, prayers of thanks at meal times, and prayers on arising and retiring become habits which people obey automatically. There may be great earnestness in them, or theirs may be none. The habit of praying periodically and with a sense of duty tends to automatic prayer rather than devotional. Those who thus pray might just as well not pray, for prayer is a union of soul of man to soul of God, and words alone cannot make this union. Automatic, formal, and habitual praying from the lips alone in one's chamber or in groups is of no avail. Prayer based upon desire and uttered within the soul of man, wordlessly or otherwise, will always command the whole universe to fulfill the desire, but words alone are not prayer any more than paint is the art in a picture. When you pray to God asking for all of the things you want, enumerating them carefully, even to timing their arrival as your desired possessions, yea, even informing God as to his method of giving them to you, detailing your business and family needs, never giving thought as to your worthiness to receive them, or whether it is wise to have them at all, or what you shall re-give to deserve them. You are but making yourself into your own selfish image, and not in the image of God's Spirit in you. When your child prays for a long list of birthday or Christmas presents, ending with the God bless Papa, God bless Mama, you tell the neighbors how cute that prayer is, and then buy everything the child wants to uphold its belief in prayer. It is not cute, it is tragic. It is helping the child build its own selfish image. It is also helping the whole world to build its own selfish, greedy image. It is helping to perpetuate this barbaric age of greed, selfishness, and fear of neighbor against neighbor. When will parents teach their children that they must give love for love given them? Not until they first know that they themselves must not ask to be given anything without a deep desire in their hearts for re-giving love equally for love again. Parents who know that will say to a child, God will give you all that you desire because he loves to give. But what are you planning to re-give in love to God? You want God to show his love to you by giving you the things you want, but God wants love from you. The way you can show your love to God is to love all things which God puts on the earth. When you ask God to bless Papa and Mama, you can help God bless them by getting Papa's slippers and helping Mama dry the dishes. This is the way you can be worthy of receiving all the things you asked for. When a mother prays to God to extend his loving protection to her son from harm and transit on stormy seas, she herself must extend her love equally to all other sons of all mothers on earth, and to all things of God's creating. Her devout prayer can alone be answered that way. When she prays devoutly, no matter how deeply her sincerity is asking love for her mother's heart, then turns angrily or impatiently upon a friend or neighbor, or a servant in her house, she herself voids her prayer, as though it never had been uttered. When you ask God to bless your business and make it prosperous, God will answer your prayer when you go out into your plant and bless all in it and make them prosper. When you give to your helpers the love given you by God, it is God's love given to them by God through you. That is what is meant by manifesting God on earth. When you pray for God to show his love for you by giving your field good crops, you must yourself give your love to your fields to give his giving. Your love given to them is God's love given to you for giving. Your love and God's love are one. Its manifestation is two in giving and regiving, but that two is the one heartbeat of God's body, even as the swinging of the pendulum is the two of the one source of their manifestation. If the farmer would but stand in the midst of his fields and pray, saying unto them, I love you, my green fields. I love every part of you, every grass blade, every root and herb and ear of ripening corn. I love every tree of you, each leaf of you, which gives love and oxygen for nitrogen given to you in love. I love the fruit of each tree of you, and the red gold you give me in your luscious fruit, for the love I give to your roots. If the farmer would but pray that way deeply, and in his heart, he would prosper as his fields prospered with him. And he would know no fatigue for love given is never work, and there would be light in his eyes and inner joyousness in his heart, which not but the manifestation of love given on earth, as it is in heaven, can ever give to man. Again, teach us how to pray. He who can say in his heart, I and my Father are one, and feel the ecstasy of that unity, is continually in prayer, even as he is continually in life and continually breathing. His prayer is like unto his inward-outward breath, which is forever with him, forever vitalizing him. He who knows the light of love in him does not beseech the Father, Mother of the universe for his next breath, nor for his next heartbeat, for he fully knows that his heartbeat is one with the universal pulse, and that which you would needlessly ask is already his. Therefore I say to you when you ask of me, how shall I pray and when? I say to you, as you live and breathe continuously, so shall you be in prayer continuously, as you are in life and love. And as the air you breathe surrounds you abundantly, awaiting your need of it, so it is which you would ask for your need, awaiting you in abundant supply, yea, even to overflowing fullness. And as there is not a time when God centers you, and an interval elapse in which he again centers and controls your balanced heartbeat to synchronize with him, so is there not a time when you should pray to him, and another time when you should not. And likewise, as there is not a time when the air you breathe is denied you while you manifest your Father, Mother on this earth, so likewise there shall never come a time when that which you need to worthily manifest him shall be denied you. For I again say, you already have that for which you ask, even as you love and life for which you have not asked. If there are times when you would like to put words in your desire to give them form, let not your words be from your lips, nor give voice to them. Say in your heart when sorely perplexed, Be thou thee in me, my Father, and know him as your very self. Your problem may be great in your wisdom and doubt to yourself. If then you would say, Father, stand by, I deeply need thee, it might mean more in assurance to you, but to our Father it weighs not one whit more than saying it in your heart, so pray to him, the way if it comforts you in this way to commune. If sleep will not come to you for heaviness regarding your dealing with a friend, write your questioning upon your heart with desire that love shall guide you. Then sleep in peace and know that the answer will be written in balanced rhythms where the question has been erased. And if your handiwork goes not to your liking, having too much of your earth self in it, sensing instead of knowing, liking and not loving, diverted by sounds of earth from hearing the sounds of heaven which borns them on earth, then I say, open wide the doors of your soul, and let God in to work with you. Rejoice then in your again renewed ecstasy as you again think your work knowingly with God, creating with his hands and yours as one. If a friend approaches you with a grievance and love to open the door for him to say, and say within your heart, Father, let my words be thy words to him, not mine alone, then weigh his grievance in the scales of love, and not let him depart unillumined by the light, but void his grievance with your love. If you find your business slowly ebbing because you have, perchance, founded it afar from where you should have founded it, and you grieve because you have not the means to transfer it to that far state where you now know it would thrive, I say to you to not grieve, but rejoice that God has illumined you with the light of knowing what to do to balance your unbalanced beginning. In your rejoicing is your power to take the first step of that far journey, which will be followed by another, and still another one, even as one breath forever follows another, until that far state is beneath your feet in answer to your prayer. Know you, however, that all the prayers in all the world would not have been as soft-blown winds on a desert sand, had you not re-given to your Father, even as he has given to you, by working with him, step by step and breath by breath, the balance that given to you by him to manifest you on earth, with that which you give to manifest him in heaven. He would become a music master and grieves because he has not the means to meet the years ahead, to so become already has the means to play his first note. And when that first note is played, he has the means to play the second note. Therefore I say that he who takes his first gift from God and re-gives to him will find that first gift to be a trickling stream, a running brook, or mighty cataract of power, ever ready to be given in the measure of any man's ability to re-give equally. Again I say, God will work with you, but not for you. No one ever became a concert pianist by prayer without action, for that is wishful thinking, or faith and belief without knowledge manifest. If you are low in spirits because of some fancied hurt or have been too much alone and would balance your self-awareness with God-awareness, let your prayer be a desire for realization of your high place in God's universe. Say within your pulse beat, wordlessly, I, my Father, am not alone. I, thou, my Father, art I. Thou art in me, and I in thee. I am favored of thee, my Creator. I am of the inner mind. I know thy ecstasy. I am exalted in thee. I have all knowledge and all power. That which I desire to know or to have, or to give is mine to know, to have or to give. My dwelling place is in thy high heavens. Be thou thee in me, that I may be thee knowingly. I am in thy light, O my Father. Enfold thou me ever in thy light, that I may not again feel the heaviness of the dark upon my heart. Dissolve thou my separateness, and make me one with thee. He who would pray for love and the companionship of many friends shall be given that for which he asks, and as abundantly as he gives love and friendship to others whom he befriends. And he who would feel the ecstasy of all the world at prayer with the God of nature should go out into nature's great cathedral of forest pines and oaks, and join in that mighty prayer of running streams and babbling brooks, and the singing of birds, the buzzing of bees, the droning of countless insects and hidden things that chirp, trill, and sing Hosanna to God in his high heavens, to gladden our hearts as we walk and talk with God. You who have read my book of early whisperings know what I mean by that, and how wonderful it is to pray to God with all of his creating things which manifest him in love, for the love he gives all things. When any man prays to you to fulfill his desire as you do to your Father, know that he is praying to your Father who is one with you. Even as God works with you to fulfill your desire, you should work with him who desireth aught of you to fulfill his desire. For as all men are one, so likewise are all desires of all men one. If he who thus prays to you to help him to fulfill an unbalanced desire, which is not love given and re-given equally, extend to him your love and balanced knowing, even as God whispers it always to the unhearing and unknowing. If he hears but needs not your counseling, do not condemn him, or fail to watch over him until the light of your illumining has reached his heart, as it someday will, even as God watches over the unbalanced ones who have not yet learned to manifest love. Say to him within your heart what God says in his heart. All men will come to me in due time, but theirs is the agony of awaiting. And be thou awaiting him with love when he is at last known love. And so it is in all ways of man, for I say that God is love, and love is all that is in God's kingdom of heaven, and the manifestation of love is all that is on earth. Man on earth does not yet know that, but he is beginning to know it through cosmic man of high heavens who knows love in him, and gives it to the world in the heavenly rhythm of the high heavens. The geniuses of the world manifest God's love and give it out from them to uplift the world by re-inspiring man on earth with the inspirations of heaven-born men. The love-born symphony is prayer for love fulfilled in the composer and again fulfilled in the hearts of those whose heartbeat feels the ecstasy of God's heartbeat as expressed in those heavenly rhythms. And so is all the art of all the world of prayer for love fulfilled and inspired cosmic man for regiving of love to the race of man. For art is beauty, without which man is not yet even human. The workman at his bench who gives beauty to his work regives the love which God has given to him to all the world to uplift the world. Likewise, the housewife who puts love in her cooking enriches the food which God's love which renourishes her family with love. Likewise the butcher, the baker, and candlestick maker, who regive love for love given them, manifest God in building his universe of love with him. And the mason gives love to his wall in the laying of each brick, which in turn reflects love's beauty to each passer-by. Beauty thus given by the mason and reflected to man is the light of the kingdom of heaven extended to man for his illumining. The dawning transition of man. The new age of cosmic man, which you and I are unfolding for the saving of mankind from self-suicide by the barbaric dealings of man with man, is a transition from believers in a far-off God of fear whom they fear, to knowers of a universal God of love whom they love. Those cosmic ones who know God are the cosmic thinkers, inspired geniuses and illumined mystics who know God within them and see God everywhere. These are the ones who down the ages have uplifted man gradually by bringing the beauty into the world which has gradually given man his culture and his ethics. These are the ones who will unify mankind through their knowing to end this babel of tongues of many religions and bring into being the one religion of the one God of love. This now ending barbaric age is peopled with God-fearing men. The dawning cosmic age is to be peopled with God-loving men. The coming cosmic race of men will know that love is all there is in God nature, and that the expression or manifestation of love is all there is in the nature of the physical universe. It is my responsibility to so clarify the above statement that you will thoroughly understand the basis of what is called evil or bad, and it is your responsibility to teach it to others so they will gradually comprehend that a universe which is founded upon balance cannot be unbalanced, or one founded upon good cannot be bad. When you understand how unbalance, which is the basis of the idea of evil, can seem to be overthrown but can never succeed, and that good can seem to be overthrown to create that which we call bad, you will readily see how the race of man has made itself suffer through gross ignorance. Conversely, you will as readily see that the only way to conquer evil, bad, illness, failure, fear, worry, superstition, greed, selfishness, loneliness, grief, or even death itself is through cosmic knowledge of the light which gradually illumines the conscience of man, which is in absolute control of man's body, and of his own unfolding through that control. You who are readers and deep students of the message are the seed of the coming cosmic age. You who know the message in your hearts know God's command to me, which likewise means you. I will again read that part of the message which refers to the method with you and I must be in making the transition of man, which will bring love into the world. You will find it in the Book of Beauty, chapter 5, 5-18. Verily I say, the dawn of cosmic man is in its beginnings. Go thou, therefore, to all the world and sow the seed of thy knowing. Thou shalt sow the seed of knowing man in unfolding man's progression, and no rest shalt thou know until thou hast well fulfilled thy task. Through cosmic man the unity of man beginneth. Many are they who know me in them. Sow thou the seed of beauty, love, and balance in them. And multiply thou them until their legions shall illumine the dark of man's barbaric ages with my omniscient light. Say thou to thine appointed ones these my words, Thou art love, thou art beauty, thou art balance. Go thou and give love, beauty, balance, and truth to thy neighbor. Think not of doing great works in my name. Go thou to thy neighbor. Think thou of thy neighbor alone. One seed sufficeth not for a meadow, but out of one seed cometh a sheaf of 10. As many sheaves filleth great granaries, even so will thy sheaves of 10 encompass the whole earth, to bring into being the new age of cosmic man. Say thou these my words to thy neighbor. Go thou to 10 men who will believe on thee, and multiply thou them by 10. And yet another 10, until a legion shall be as a wall of granite beneath thy feet. Heed thou my commanding, and sow thou my seed of love, lest man destroy himself by his continued desires on earth, knowing not me and him. Be not neglectful of thine own task, my son. Leave not to others of lesser knowing that which thyself must do. That which must be done for cosmic man to come must have thy own self in it. He who conceiveth must first unfold his concept. The mason layeth the stones of the master's thinking. Thou thyself must impart thy knowing in the light of the anointing to cosmic man, who will build thy knowing and mind into balanced rhythm forms with me. And out of the knowing of thy anointed legions a new world of unified man shall spring. For where thine anointed shall gather together to thus unify man through his knowing of the light of me in him, there shall I be in their midst, and they shall not fail. Conclusion. Just as Lau and I are giving our entire lives to sowing the seed of the cosmic age through you, which is our responsibility, we know you will give great heed to the above words of our Father and realize that they are addressed to you as your responsibility. These words you have just read do not demand that you give up your lives to help mankind make the transition. It simply means that you should live it, and thus be an example to your neighbor. It means living it with your neighbor by making your teachings and dealings with him conform to the teachings of the message. When people are asked to work for most causes, it generally means to give up something or make some sacrifice to do it. This requirement of our Father reverses that thought, for if you actually practice the love principle of first giving, you will find that you will have enriched your life in every respect, instead of subtracting from it by needless sacrifice, which actually gains you not, nor helps another, and very often hurts. If you could keep the most important working thought of life before you always, and put that thought into every dealing you have with everyone, your patient, your client, the man you are selling to or buying from, your servant and your neighbor, you would soon find yourself in a very different kind of world of your own making for yourself and for all mankind. The most important thought is, the God of love is all there is in the kingdom of heaven, and the manifestation of love is all there is on earth. End of lesson. Lesson number 7, the story of my illumining. And now the time has come when I shall try to tell you of the greatest thing that can happen to any man in all the world, as it happened to me. The illumination into the God light of cosmic consciousness, the ultimate goal of all unfolding mankind, to come to the end of an eons-long road which began in the dark of sensing alone and ends in the glory of the light of all-knowing in God's kingdom of the high heavens, where a soul of man and God are one. The first great inkling of the grandeur to come was in May of 1878, when I was 7. I had strange premonitions of it for months, perhaps even for a year, but the glory of it when it did happen was less mystifying and more understandable than the premonitions which always left me deeply wondering. For a boy I had been doing extraordinary things which caused much wonder. Before I could walk, I could play on the piano with one finger all things heard by me, then all fingers gradually, even to the complex melodies played by blind Mr. Maynard, who to me was the greatest man in all the world. Mr. Maynard lived in the dark, but walked and talked with God in the light. And what the soul of creation told to his soul has told to me, and I walked and talked with God in those early days in his wonderland of peat meadow and the huge oaks down in Bachelor's Wild, where nobody went but me. For no one else in all my world heard what I heard there, nor saw what I saw there, so it was mine alone, all that glory, just mine alone. Then it happened. A blinding glare, red, then incandescent, then a field of blue, shut the whole world of all things out from my, leaving naught but indescribable ecstasy, while my body wandered by itself without me, to the great root of my beloved oak, where I found myself sitting with a handful of marbles, with which I had been playing with other boys in a ring full of marbles drawn in the dirt near the grocery store. I remember as though it were but a minute ago the effect of that tremendous transition into another world so utterly unlike the one in which my body dwelled, and breathed in and out so strangely and unnecessarily. When I began to realize the world of many things, I felt myself to be that world of many things, all one, and I the universe, the tree, the sky, the little ant on my thumb, and the great oak above me. An indescribable ecstasy pervaded me like unborn vibrations of the great silence from which the vibrations of sound rhythms will be born, an ecstasy which I was to know again and again for 10,000 times, 10,000 times, when I walked and talked with God in my world all through my long, long life of working knowingly with Him from that very day. This state of ecstasy is referred to in the Bible as being in the Spirit or in the light. In Hindu philosophy it is referred to as the Brahmic bliss. I know not how long I sat there, but do remember saying, when asked where I had been so long tarried, I have been in my world, and to this day I have always talked and written about the glorious happenings in my world. Most assuredly, I was another person, quite transformed, quite unable to be the same, think the same, or play again the same with other boys. I soon learned that my world had no meaning for them, so I stopped talking about my world to anyone but my blind friend who really did know my world. Little boys like me seemed little boys so very much unlike me that I needed them no more. I had rather held mighty converse with the men at the car barn, or play the music of my world simply to my blind maestro, and hear him play it back to me, glorified, while my very soul was alone, I in my world, and my body afar, always afar. My blind maestro was the only friend of my early days who dwelt with me in my world. Many long years passed before another came to take aloneness away from me, by dwelling with me in my world. 7 years passed, and each year, always in May, the door of the light which opened into my world gave me those few days of more illumining, more knowing of the rhythm of God's thinking, which registered in my soul and tried to find birth in sounds and colors and forms through me. I played Chopin, Mozart, Handel, Liebach, and Beethoven in ecstasy, for these men dwelt with me in my world day by day, for it concerned me not one whit that their bodies had passed on. I had long since been taken out of school and put to work. God would not let me read books. He became my teacher and closed the books which I would open. Things said in them were so unlike the nature of things in my world that he guarded me against their intrusion to blur the clarity of things I visioned in the light. I found that whatever I wished to know, I could know by just desiring to know in my heart. If I wished to know music, it came to me in overwhelming fullness, and I spent glorious hours in the forest listening to celestial rhythms which sprang into being from forest silence, and fed my soul with the colors of nature turned inside out for me to see their source within her eyes, the outer ones being too dimmed with tears for seeing. Then in my 14th year came the second great illumining at a time when my body had been declared dead by the doctors, and undertakers were arriving. Black diphtheria had destroyed my throat and shut off my breathing. Then again came the great light which had come to me in my first illumining, and I arose from my bed perfectly healed, to the great amazement of my weeping parents and of the doctors who found that my throat was perfectly healed. During the period of complete unawareness of my body and cessation of my heartbeat, I had complete consciousness of knowing from the moment of that severance of electrical and conscious awareness, which I will later describe from a scientific basis. From that moment I fully knew that God had a purpose for my living to manifest Him by a life of demonstrating the power of man who knew God in him and worked knowingly with Him. This I fully knew, but I did not fully know the transformation of unfolding man into his next cosmic age until the full illumining of 1921, when my years were 7 times 7. No words of mine can quite convey as much meaning as those set down in the divine Iliad itself in reference to this event which God caused to take place in order that I should fulfill His purpose by conveying His message to man, for which I then knew that I was being prepared. These are the words as written in the Divine Iliad in 1921. It had been given to me to know that regeneration of the body from that which man calls death is within the range of power of inner thinking if the soul has not left the body, meaning no longer controls the body through a centering consciousness. That disease which man calls black diphtheria or black plague has so disintegrated my body that my soul made ready for its departure, and I was pronounced dead by man. God took me up into a high mountaintop, where inspired man is God-man, and there gave me unto higher knowledge of the power of regeneration of my body through his all-knowing light. Through the red-violet world and the red-red world to the world of pure white light, beyond the world of blue, and back again to the world of pure white simulated light beyond the yellow world. The spirit within me journeyed in an ecstasy for which there are no words of man to tell. In the ecstatic state of the inner knowing, the great truth of creating and decreating things was made known to me. That majestic swing of the cosmic pendulum spelled out for me the glorious rhythm of things to be and then not to be. The mystery of soul was mine, the souls of all creating things. The memory of 10 times 10,000 lives mirrored themselves in light from their records of my soul to tell me that my body was still new, that my time of disappearance had not yet come. It was then given to me know that the power of revitalization of my body was mine, and I, who had been pronounced dead by man, lived strongly in the body. Each year in May, year after year, came those 10 or more days when I sought the force to be alone with God. Each year I became slightly more aware of my purpose, which I was to know fully in 1921. It was enough for the time that I was made aware of the fact that I must demonstrate tremendous versatility to prove to man that whatever he desired to do, he could do. And so the years of preparation passed, each one, however, evidenced by doing something that I had never done before or not even thought of doing. And each 7th year was marked by the doing of something extraordinarily different than I had ever done before, such as painting The Might of Ages at 28, the designing and building of many buildings costing millions during the following 7 years, while painting the most beautiful children in America, then introducing figure skating in America, acquiring personal materialness of the art in addition to painting many portraits and writing many books. And so the years of intensive preparation passed until May in the year of 1921, when the supreme experience of the anointing of light became mine, and my world of light and the ecstasy of it was once more mine in all of its fullness. Then came the day of intense premonition of something strange in the world, such as I had not known before after its happening, but not before. A certain ominous and mysterious something in the very light of the sun and in the air compelled me to seek the privacy of my own chamber, to await to that which must be again coming, for the time was here. I afterwards found the magnetic sunspot storms tore man's cables from their beds and disrupted the telephone and power systems of the nation during the middle of May, while the intense severance of consciousness from body again took place and made me just a soul and a mind again, hardly aware of my body, and made my body dependent entirely upon instinct, entirely controlled by instinct as if one was 1,000,000 years ago. The great light of my first and 7th illuminating again came, and again I found my universality in that ecstasy which is the only emotion of the God nature. That ecstasy is the one unchanging and constant mind state which inspired man always to feel in variable intensity as measured by the intensity of his inspiration. Owing to a lack of knowledge of God's electric universe and man's relationship to it, no man of past ages has ever been able to give a satisfactory explanation of that instantaneous flash of red-orange light which completely blinded me for an undeterminable interval, which was followed by a feeling of being bathed in a great sea of blue. The explanation of that light flash, which Paul and other cosmic conscious men have experienced, is that there is an electric short circuit between the 2 lobes of the brain which causes the flash of light at that instant of severance of consciousness from electric sensation of the body. Such a flash occurs at the moment of death in all cases and has been photographed many times. The light of spiritual consciousness centers the divided, or polarized light which constitutes the electric awareness of sensation in a body. Normally, there is a complete synchronization of consciousness and sensation, but when the severance takes place, which makes the body seem like an unattached and remote appendage, and the mind alone to be all it is, the synchronization is interrupted and does not operate normally. Usually, the cosmic illumination has a duration of a few minutes or hours, leaving an aftermath of a few days, but no matter how brief it is, it completely transforms one into another higher being. My usual period through life has been about 10 days, following the first intensive few hours, but this 1921 period lasted for 39 days and nights, beginning on May 10th and ending June 19th. The illumination into cosmic consciousness is an entirely spiritual experience, and is the ultimate goal of all mankind, which completes the unfolding of the man idea on earth. All down through man's unfolding, it comes gradually to all people. Every inspiring thought which comes to you is a partial illumination. The geniuses of the world are those who have had the greatest number of spiritual inspirations. Every such inspiration is also a partial illumination. Whenever a great genius creates any masterpiece of art, in any of the 5 fine arts, and you are re-inspired by his creation, he is illuminating you with the light given him. That is how man arises from the brute stage to the divine cosmic stage, by gradually adding to his culture. Every one of the great mystics who has been anointed in the light of all-knowing have uplifted countless millions of men who have become their followers. The great religions of the world grew out of the illuminations of such supreme mystics as Buddha, Muhammad, the unknown mystics who wrote the Bhagavad Gita, which became the Persian Bible, and Jesus. Of these, Jesus was, in all probability, the only fully illumined one, as he alone fully understood the love principle as the basis of creation, and the magnetic light of God as the source of creation. He alone of all the mystics had all-knowing to the extent that he so fully comprehended his divinity as Son of God that he could say, "I and my Father are one," and know what it meant. Full illumination is the goal of all mankind. It is the Christ status which no mystic of past ages has acquired, but all men will acquire when the journey of unfolding man on this planet will have been completed. There have been quite a number of lesser illumined mystics whose teachings and works have exalted mankind in various degrees, such as Lao Tzu, Confucius, Plotinus, Paul, Isaiah, Socrates, Jacob Boehme, Spinoza, Leonardo da Vinci, Swedenborg. These were very close to the light, but were not fully aware of their absolute unity with it. There have been many of the lesser illumined ones whom we know as geniuses, such as Whitman, Browning, Shakespeare, and other great poet-writers, Beethoven, Mozart, Schumann, and other musicians of their standard, together with the masters in all the arts who have given to the world its culture. Inspiration is the first stepping stone which leads to genius. Genius is the next of the 3 great pinnacles of mankind, which are inspired man, genius, and mystic. When one is inspired, either through meditation or through the works of inspired men, he has arisen through that partial illumination, from the purely physical to the spiritual status which leads ever upward to the all-knowing, fully illumined sonship with God, which is the Christ status. Inspired men, geniuses and mystics, are the savior of other men. They are the interpreters of God's language of light, and teachers of the love nature of God, who uplift the world of men by re-inspiring them with the light of their illumining, each in the measure of his own awareness of the light of God consciousness or Christ's Spirit within them. Treasure, therefore, your inspired moments, which become more and more yours as you increasingly walk and talk and work with God. Each of the supreme mystics of the past brought the messages of love, unity, and the brotherhood of man to the people of their day, but the human race was too newly out of the jungle to either comprehend the principle of love or to practice it. The human race has not yet unfolded enough to more than faintly understand it or practice it. Man's attempt to understand it has led to the formation of many religions which have disunited man against instead of uniting him. And the misinterpretation of the nature of God as a wrathful God of fear has created a world of fear, sin, evil, selfishness, and greed, which has led to countless killings in war after war. Until the last 100 years, human comprehension has not reached the possibility of comprehending what this electric age has taught to man. For this reason, God has again sent his message of love to this new age of unfolding man, for there are a sufficient number among men who can now become the seed of the cosmic age now dawning, for re-inspiring other men to their exaltation into cosmic knowing. These few among the many, such as you are, else you would not have been led to it, will spread their knowing of the love nature of God throughout the earth, and to man of the comprehension of this electric age, and that alone will save mankind from his own destruction. Now I will attempt to tell you my personal reaction to this great happening, which left me wholly mind with but slight awareness of my electric body. During practically all of the time, I felt that my body was not a part of me, but attached to my consciousness by electromagnetic flux threads of light. When I had the use in such acts as writing in words the essence of God's message, it was extremely difficult to bring my body back under control of my consciousness and make it do as I ordered it to do. As an example, I herewith reproduce one page of hundreds, if not thousands of fragmentary writings to illustrate the difficulty of coordinating mind and body. After many days of such an effort, I suddenly wrote as clearly and as legibly as the script of a child, and in a handwriting which I had never before or since used. It was necessary to overcome this difficulty, for the great reason for keeping me in the light for so long a period was to write down the message of the divine Iliad, as interpreted from the rhythms of God's thinking in the inspired language of light, for the purpose of making mankind know and comprehend God for the first time during his unfolding. Also, it was necessary for me to make hundreds of diagrams for chemical and astronomical charts for the purpose of giving science a new cosmogony in harmony with the laws of nature to replace the present one which does not conform with natural law. Over 40,000 words were thus written and hundreds of charts made, which God's mind and thinking being mine, with hardly an erasure or correction. You who have read the books of beauty, love, desire, healing, and other parts of the divine Iliad surely know that I alone could not write such rhythmic and masterly literature, nor can any man at any time produce material art except while in the ecstasy of working knowingly with God. Nor can any man write masterly literature without constantly rewriting and editing. During the entire period of severance, I could never attach my body to my mind as a part of myself. It always seemed outside of me, unattached, like an instrument which I could use but was in no way related to my personal being. When my body felt hunger, it was not I who was hungry. My body automatically picked up food under instinctive control, without mental interest in the process whatsoever. The food my body ate was as impersonal to me as the food given to an animal or to another person. My body likewise acted under instinctive control when it felt the necessity for air or exercise. I sometimes walked it into the park, where it knew the way, and it would come back unerringly. But it was not I who walked, for I was forever in the high heavens of indescribable ecstasy, forever talking with God in his thought language of light. It is impossible to ever convey to anyone who does not think cosmically a dynamic understanding of that transition from the sensing of a man-controlled body to the knowing of mind which has been severed from the body by so deep a feeling of separation that the electric body seemed in no way related to the ego of soul or the mind. I shall do my best to explain it by describing what happened. I cannot relate anything to time, for time ceased to be. And I can say is that there came a time after that blinding flash in which I became aware of knowing all things. Somewhere in the Bible it says something like these words, "Ye shall have an anointing of the Holy One, and ye shall know all things." On the face of it, such a statement seems incredible, but it is not. Our concept of knowledge has been built upon the complexity of multitudinous effect, instead of the utter simplicity of the cause of complex effect. Cause is as simple as the three mirrors in a kaleidoscope, while effect is as complex as the infinite repetition of a few pieces of broken glass reflected within these three mirrors. We can comprehend effect, but we cannot know it. We can know only the cause of effect. Encyclopedic information is not knowledge, but that is our concept of knowledge. In one timeless flash I knew all things. All that I have ever written since then are but three-dimensional extensions into a universe of time and space. It did take time to think them into form and write them down, but to know all things was timeless. All of my chemical and astronomical charts were made before I knew the names of the elements or of stellar formations. Illumination into the light means just that, for it is the light of all-knowing, or the light of love, which is manifested by thinking God's all-knowing into complexities of patterned form. I instantly and timelessly knew the still magnetic light, which is the fulcrum of life and power. Also I knew the heartbeat of the electric universe, which manifests love, life, and power in matter. I was instantly and timelessly knew that the magnetic light of the God of love was all that is, and that the sensed electric wave universe of motion, which simulates love, life, and power, had no reality whatsoever. I knew it for what it was, God's thinking, God's imagining, pure illusion, simulation, self-avoiding forms thrown on the screen of space to manifest changeless idea by setting in motion to produce an effect of change. Thus, knowing the universal heartbeat, I knew the electric wave or universal pulse to which all moving, creating things were geared. Thus, knowing the wave and its octave pulse beat in cyclical rhythms, which spelled their rhythms out for me always as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I then knew all cause and comprehended all effect. There was nothing to know but God's one whole idea of creation, which is represented in the following diagram by the changeless zero of the spiritual mind universe of rest, and nothing to comprehend but the heartbeat of this pulsing electric wave universe of motion, which is represented in the diagram by numbers. The heartbeat of the universe, positive, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, the generation of energy toward life and growth. Negative, 0, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, the disintegration of energy toward decay and death. This diagram is given to you now as the first simple step toward your acquisition of all knowledge of cause and all comprehension of effect. During the whole construction of this electric universe in this entire course of study, the basic principle above diagrammed will never be departed from or exceeded, for there is nothing in nature, nor in our own life, nor in your thinking, nor in any action of yours, which can vary one whit from this basic formula of creation. Nor is there anything the chemist, physicist, metallurgist, or engineer can exceed beyond this formula or vary it in their work. Likewise, the poet, painter, inventor, musician, or architect is limited to this simplicity beyond which he cannot go, and to which he must conform. Likewise, the healthy growth of your body, or the conduct of your friendly or business relations, must conform to this principle of balance, or else suffer the consequence of whatever unbalanced residue remains from lack of conformity with the heartbeat of the universe. As we proceed to unfold this principle by its application to the many departments of life and work, other series of words will be used which will have different connotations, and therein lies a seeming complexity which makes everything you do seem difficult. The difficulty of that seeming complexity lies in the popular belief that cause and knowledge is complex, while cause and knowledge are utterly simple. But information concerning effect is so utterly complex that it takes many large volumes of encyclopedias to write it all down, while not one thing in this vast volume can possibly vary in principle from this simple formula of action-reaction sequence of expressed energy, which constitutes the cosmic kaleidoscope, which is our physical universe. The reason why I've been able to do so many things during life, and do them in a masterly manner, was because of my lifetime growing knowledge of the universal heartbeat, which fully unfolded in one timeless flash in 1921. It may not suddenly unfold to you as it did to me, but you can very greatly accelerate its unfolding if you will open your heart to these lessons and get what I am telling you into your consciousness instead of just photographing them into your brain. If you just photograph them under your brain, you can remember and repeat them, but you will not know them until deep thought and such meditation, while alone in your chamber, make them a part of your soul pattern. The more you do that, the more speedily you will gain knowledge cosmically. Until you do that, you have no knowledge whatsoever, for knowledge is cosmic. It is mental, while the brain is but a recording instrument which senses impressions recorded upon it and cannot know anything. Electrical awareness of effect must not be confused with cosmic awareness of cause. Electrical awareness means only the sensation caused by bodies of matter in motion, while cosmic consciousness means an awareness of soul, the universal soul of God, which man is to the extent of his awareness of his unity with God. Electrical sensation must not be mistaken for cosmic inspiration, nor for thinking, nor for knowing. The first and most conspicuous effect of illumination into full cosmic consciousness is the utter absence of evil, sin, or shame. There is no thought of such an unbalanced condition, while in the one ecstatic condition of perfect balance which the light of love is. When I say there can be no thought of such a thing, I can best transfer that thought to you by asking if you feel the slightest thought of falling while you stand in balance. You obviously cannot, for your senses will not vibrate to tell you you are falling until you actually begin to fall. Likewise, when you are perfectly comfortable, your senses will not tell you that you are uncomfortable until you begin to be. You will then put on a coat if you are cold to bring your body back into a balanced condition of comfort. Illumination into the light of cosmic consciousness transports you immediately into the light of all knowing of cause, which balances and controls all effect. This cosmic spiritual light is balance. That which man calls evil or sin or shame or any of its attributes such as anger, jealousy, worry, fear, cruelty, lust, or the greeds which lead to murder and war are unbalanced conditions created by man who has not yet learned the law of love which demands equal interchange between all opposite conditions in all human relations. Man himself has manufactured evil, sin, and shame because of the impossibility of keeping himself in balance because of his greed, which impelled him to take what he wanted without giving in order to be re-given. There is no such thing in nature as evil, sin, or shame. Nature is never unbalanced. The heavens give of light and rains to earth, and earth re-gives equally of her forests and crops and vapors which replenish the heavens. That is nature's manifestation of the law of love which keeps nature ever in balance. I will give you another diagram to illustrate the love principle. This will be more step trying to transfer to your comprehension the state of balance which kept me in the one ecstatic condition of cosmic consciousness for so long a period of severance of mind from the sensations induced by the electric thinking of mind from which bodies appear, disappear, and reappear in endless sequence. Giving. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. Regiving. 0, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The love cycle. As you see, I have again used the same formula of rhythmic balance interchange in all transactions of nature. I have but used different words to express different ideas. And I shall continue to do so whether I talk to you from the chemist's laboratory or from your business office, or about your home and friendly relations. This I shall do until you have all knowledge and all power to control all effects which you set into motion. As every effect which you do set in motion is a pendulum which will return to bless or smite you in the measure of your knowledge or lack of it, it is imperative to your welfare that you open your heart and soul to what is herein written, and not sifted through any traditions or cults or teachings which have been so deeply impressed upon your brain by sensations or emotions that all you have accumulated in a lifetime are but abstractions which you forever repeat but cannot possibly explain. That which your brain alone has recorded you do not know, and therefore cannot explain to others or even to yourself. That which you know in your heart and is recorded within your soul remains with you throughout the ages, and is reincarnated within the seed of you for adding to it life after life as your journey through the ages to your final goal of complete unity with the light of God, which you are gradually knowing, a little bit at a time as you walk and talk with God, to know Him in you more and more day by day. Those of you who have read The Secret of Light and the message of the Divine Iliad know much of what has been written down by me during those 39 days. I have given to you all that can yet be given, and the other volume will be published as you become ready for more of it, and as the world becomes ready to receive it. There is much in the message which probably will not be published during my lifetime, much which is personal in nature of instructions as to time and method of delivery of the message, and much which reveals my own shortcoming to me in order that they may be avoided and thus may not jeopardize its delivery. I shall now give you some of these unpublished pages so that you may know how explicit is every detail of the unfolding of any of God's plan when you work together with God as one. I hereby quote, "Thou art the light. Content thou never shall be with a reflection of the light in man's outer vision. Content thou never shall be in man's universe of dimension. Content thou shalt be only when in communion with me upon thy mountain top. Thou art ecstatic man. Thou art the herald of ecstatic man to come. Thou art to unloose the binding with which man has bound himself. The ecstasy of my light is thine. The agony of man's revilings shall be thine in generous portion. Heed them not, my son. The capacity for ecstasy is measured only by the capacity for suffering. Therefore rejoice thou in thy suffering. Gather thou all the nations of the earth, and sing to them my words written for ecstatic man in light upon thy pulsing heart. Go thou in all humility, and head not thy crucifixion in the heart of 10 times 10,000,000 men. He who comes to man bearing inspired knowledge does man crucify. Crucifixion awaits all inspired messengers of the light. Truth lies beyond the crucifixion. To tear down the idols of man and open the doors which lead to eternal life in the knowledge of the light shall be thy father mother's work to you. Teach thou those laws by which my universe is bound. Such laws are within the comprehension of man, and none are beyond it. Avoid thou, therefore, such wording as psychic things and powers, and occult things and powers which mislead men and tempt him toward his early imagining, and answer thou all questions dynamically. All man's questions are answerable in light. Thou art light, thou canst not answer them. Confine thy teaching to thy written words translated from thy father-mother's rhythmic words in light. Preach not thou, nor teach, beyond what thou hast written down, for thou art man and full of man's failings. Answer no man that which has not yet been written down by thee, even now thou knowest the answer in the universal language of light. Man's words are treacherous things of many meanings. Therefore meditate when queried beyond thy translated words until you art alone in light. Then answer by thy well-considered written word. Thy strength shall be writing down thy words and exemplifying them in charts. Preach thou and teach through thy books. Send them to the 4 winds to all people and all nations. Have a care that any spoken word of thine shall not be beyond what thou hast written down, nor divulge, nor discuss with any man my yet untranslated words. This will be thy greatest temptation. Be strong, therefore, in this wise, lest thou yield to it. Thy strength through thy written words shall be as mighty rock, which will withstand this battering of the whole world of men, and thou canst teach and preach within them. But beyond them thy ill-considered translations will be as a heap of sand to wear away by the erosion of soft-blown winds. Hear thou these words, my son of light, and heed them. It has been commanded of me to turn man's eyes far from his jungle, to tell him to look upon the face of the Lord, and know God's ecstasy in him. These are the words of the Lord. Hear thou them through me. The world of man is decadent. Go thou and resurrect it in my name. The beauty of my balanced thinking has man buried in his dark tombs, and set ugliness in the images of man's earth thinking as idols for his worshipping. Man might is he placing before omnipotence in me. Love is he seeking to crucify, to deify brutally. Barbarity of his own inviting is now crossing his horizon to crush him who would exalt it. The seeds of hate is he sowing for the babble of many tongues to multiply. I am a patient God. All men will come to me in due time, but the agony of awaiting that day shall be theirs alone. And that day shall not come until man himself shall cleanse himself from his own unbalanced thinking. Prepare thou, therefore, my messenger to the cosmic age of ecstatic man, which is now in the deep dark before its dawning. And be thou ready for thy appointed day when man's own chastening shall awaken him in me. 7 years hast thou to prepare for thy first beginning, to manifest thy messengership to man. Guard well thy knowing, and herald not thy messengership for thy first 7 years of thy preparing. Then shall all the world begin to reap the harvest of self-inflicted suffering sown by his own hands in the seed of his unbalanced thinking. And the period of man's self-cleansing shall be another 3/7 of years added to the 7 of thy novitiae years. And thine appointed day shall be in the 18th year of those 3/7, and be thou ready for that day. For thou shalt know no rest in worthily preparing to fulfill thy appointed task. Before that day of man's rebirth in me, his self-made way of earth will be deep strewn with the ashes of the earth-planned towers of self-might, denied me in him. Untold suffering shall await him on the blood-drenched road which leads toward the jungle of his own seeking. Anguish will be his lot, and there will be weeping in every home. And many who see such agony in man will say to thee that a God of love cannot be if man be son of God, and God the loving Father and Mother of all men. But I say to thee, all men are one. The thinking of one is the thinking of all, and so shall the world harvest be that which was sown in the seed of world thinking. Man's world is the sum total of man's thinking. It is what all world thinking makes it. If love be in the world, hate cannot also be. In the early days of this cycle, my messenger of that day said, Love thy brother as thyself. But man has not yet faintly comprehended its meaning. I now say more, for man is not now so new, and can well comprehend my meaning after the coming carnage by man shall have spent its furies, as the calm of earth's storms always follow those storms. These words I now say for newly comprehending man of his new cycle, Love ye one another all men, for ye are one in me. Whatsoever ye do to one in me, ye do to all, for all are one in me. Love thy brother as thyself, serve thy brother before thyself, lift high thy brother, lift him into a high pinnacle, for thy brother is thyself. For of a verity I say, love of self or nation of self turns neighbor against neighbor, nation against nation. Self-love breeds hate and sows its seed in all the winds to blow wherever it will. Wherefore say I, love of neighbor by neighbor and nation by nation unites all men as one. Serve first thy brother, hurt first thyself rather than thy neighbor. Gain not from him unbalanced by thy giving, protect thou the weak with thy strength. For if thou use the strength against him, his weakness will prevail against thee, and thy strength will avail thee not. Such is my decree, which thou well knowest in the inviolate working of my law, which holds balance in all creating things. See that thou man well know this principle as the foundation of his new day. Conclusion. I have herein given you parts of the unpublished sections of the message which specifically instructs me in quite some detail as to the very manner and method of its delivery, as well as its time for delivery, yes, and even as to my failings as a man of earth manifesting God as a man on earth. I have given you these instructions for the express purpose of bringing deeply home to you the most important, even though hardly believable fact of your life. This fact is that you know God in you. Not just abstractly believing it with some slight reservations and work knowingly with God, your life will be the highest of the high, forever knowing the peace which passes understanding, and your achievements will be mighty, for the divine you will be in them. The knowledge of your oneness with God is not possible of instant acceptance by any human in its fullness, as you would instantly accept the knowledge that 2 and 2 are 4. Such illumination is too wonderful for quick unfoldment in man, for every cell in man's body cries out of the selfhood of the body, and every sensation of man tells him of reality as being in a sense. You are able to see and feel that which you have long believed to be you, and you have built up a sense of ego or individuality around and within your body, which has forcibly separated you from all other man. For they are individuals also, human beings of persons in countless numbers, all separate and apart from each other. It is not a quick process to forget body and separability of bodies just by being told about it, even though you may believe it. Your body is the high hurdle which you must surmount in order to know your divinity. This story of my illumination will help you to realize that you can put aside your body at will to a greater or lesser extent, and know your divinity to the extent in which you can put your body aside. In meditation, you learn to increasingly forget your body and increasingly become God-conscious. Therefore, I say, walk and talk with God constantly from moment to moment. Let meditation become a fixed habit and state of mind. Let it get deep down into your consciousness that God is with you at all times, awaiting to work with you. When you realize that every cell of unfolding and refolding matter is centered by God light and controlled in its every second, and that every insect, bird, and beast are instinctively controlled and watched over just as you are, whether you know it or not, how much greater is that power of love which is watching over you when you know it and work with it? There is no detail of your life or work that you cannot take under instant advisement with God. Many thousands of times I have asked Him in my heart, wordlessly, to guide my hand with His to give balance to my sculpture or painting when it seemed lacking, and always the next brushstroke would be made by God's hand and balance restored. The time has come when cosmic man should perpetually acknowledge God as a companion and co-worker, and cease to think of Him as the Almighty God afar off to whom one can pray when he needs Him, and at all other times get along by himself. When you are in a quandary, you are often prompted to seek some friend for advice, or if some friend comes to you, you are apt to ask his advice. That desire is prompted by your feeling of need for help, but never ask of anyone before asking God. Make it the most natural thing you do to ask God about it. This you will always do if God is ever present with you, and you feel His presence as He works with you. Let me earnestly counsel you against asking or receiving advice from anyone. No one can advise you unless he becomes a part of you. Your problem must be His problem, and your desire for its solution must be His desire. How many people are there on earth who can be one with you through love? If you know such a one, you can then merge your unity, and God will be in your midst. Such love as that between perfectly mated men and women multiplies their power, for when husbands and wife both belong to God, working knowingly with Him, each one is then knowing together, thinking together, and working together with God as one. This principle can be well illustrated by group thinking, such as a meeting of directors in a business or in the Senate or Congress. Such groups should be as one man, for they all have the same interest and problem. The problem of one is the problem of all. How useless would be the advice of anyone brought into such a meeting who did not take the interest of all into his heart. Try to develop the intense realization that if there is but the one universal mind of God, then you are that mind, and your thinking is God's thinking. Meditation will do that, and the more you meditate with God by taking all of your desires and problems to Him, the more you will develop the oneness. Every meditation is a partial illumination, for you cannot possibly open your mind to God without God immediately responding. And above all things, do not desire the full illumination until and unless it comes to you. It will come when you are ready for it and not before. Rejoice in every partial illumination, which you will always recognize by the ecstatic, or even joyous feeling which inspiration always engenders. End of lesson.